A fire lookout tower is, well, it's essentially a lighthouse for the forest.
Right.
You know, you're perched way up high, you're surrounded by this vast, completely unforgiving ocean of green.
Yeah, just totally isolated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your entire job is to be the tip of the spear against disaster. You're the early warning system, like looking out for everyone else.
Which is a huge responsibility.
It is. But today, we are stripping away that whole romanticized view of retreating into the great outdoors, you know, getting off the grid.
Yeah, because it's not always so peaceful.
No,
No.
not at all. We are taking a deep dive into a collection of first-hand accounts compiled by the Let's Read channel. These cover events from 1979 all the way to 2011.
It's some really intense source material.
It really is. The mission today is to look at what actually happens when that extreme isolation transforms from a peaceful sanctuary into a total trap.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you are utterly cut off from civilization and danger comes for you, there is literally nowhere to run.
It's a very sobering reality check, honestly, on how we view the wilderness. We tend to associate deep forests with peace. You know, a place to unplug and recharge.
Get away from the emails.
Exactly. But these accounts, they provide this highly analytical, deeply unsettling window into the mechanics of true isolation.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave society behind, you aren't just leaving the noise and the stress. You are leaving the safety net.
The streetlights, the cops, everything.
Right. You leave the cell towers, and crucially, the witnesses. The wilderness offers total anonymity.
Which sounds great if you just want to read a book in a cabin.
Right. It's appealing to someone trying to escape the world, but it is equally appealing to someone who, well, wants to operate without consequences.
And that perfectly sets up our first account because it plunges right into that exact vulnerability.
It really does.
It takes us to the Canadian wilderness, specifically the Kootenays near Field, British Columbia, and it's the summer of 1979.
Beautiful area, but very rugged.
Oh, incredibly rugged. And the environmental setup here is basically a powder keg. It's high summer, the pine needles are brittle.
Just completely dried out.
Yeah, and the pine cones are actually expanding in the intense heat, pushing out this highly flammable, sticky sap.
Like literal kindling.
Exactly. The whole ecosystem is just waiting for a single spark. And then, of course, nature delivers a massive dry lightning storm.
And dry lightning is, it's an absolute nightmare scenario for Forest Services.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it occurs when the air mass beneath the storm system is so intensely hot and dry that any precipitation just evaporates into the atmosphere before it ever reaches the ground.
So you get all the electricity and none of the water.
Exactly. You get extreme electrical discharge, literally hundreds of strikes, but zero moisture to suppress the resulting flames. The ignition rate is astronomical.
Right, which is exactly what happens here. The storm immediately knocks out the park warden's radio communications.
Just instantly blinds them.
Yep. And 5 separate fires spark almost instantly.
Wow.
So the risk of these fires merging and cutting off a specific lookout tower near the Ottertail River is incredibly high.
Because they can't warn whoever's up there.
Right, because the radios are dead. So an attack crew is dispatched via helicopter to manually evacuate the workers stationed there.
They have to physically go get them.
Yeah, they crest a ridge, punch through the smoke, and touch down about 100 yards from the tower. And this is where the crew is met with an incredibly jarring sight.
Yeah, this part is wild.
You have a massive dry lightning storm, smoke plumes on the horizon, a loud helicopter landing, and the guy who steps out onto the tower's catwalk, he's just casually buttoning his shirt.
Yeah, his behavior is entirely incongruent with the extreme environmental threat around him.
It makes no sense.
No, the rescue crew rushes up, telling him, hey, we need to evacuate immediately. And the man acts, mildly confused.
Like he just woke up.
Right, he claims he was taking a nap and didn't realize the radios were dead.
Yeah.
But then he asks a very revealing question. He says, where are you taking me?
Which is such a weird thing to care about when the forest is on fire.
Exactly. And when the crew states they are heading back to headquarters, he actively pushes back. He suggests they take him to a hospital instead.
Even though he's completely fine.
Right, despite not having a single visible injury. And when they urge him to grab his personal belongings for the evacuation, he insists he doesn't need to bring anything at all.
No gear.
No gear, no logbooks, nothing. Just Let's go.
Okay, let's unpack this, because watching him try to navigate this situation, it's pretty clear he's banking on the chaos of the evacuation to blind the rescue crew, right?
Slightly.
It's a classic misdirection strategy, like a magician drawing your eye away from the trick.
Look over here, not over there.
Exactly. He doesn't want them looking closely at that tower, so he acts nonchalant, projecting this artificial aura that everything is fine and they just need to get in the helicopter and leave.
He even tells the crew not to go up the stairs because the cabin is, quote, a mess.
Right. But the thing I keep wondering is, why on earth would a criminal just wait for a helicopter to arrive instead of fleeing immediately?
What's fascinating here is the psychology of the bottleneck he's caught in. He is improvising, and the seams are showing. The lightning storm destroyed his communications, meaning he had absolutely no warning that a rescue crew was inbound until he heard the rotors.
Oh, so he literally couldn't run in time.
Exactly. He is trapped. If he runs into the tree line when the helicopter approaches, the crew lands, checks the tower, finds what he's hiding, and immediately calls it in to hunt him down from the air.
Right, you can't outrun a helicopter.
No, you can't. By staying, he is attempting to construct a temporary facade, hoping to leverage their operational urgency.
Just use their panic against them.
Yes. He wants to hitch a ride out of the wilderness and vanish into a civilian hospital before anyone realizes a crime has occurred.
Wow. But the narrator, the guy on the rescue crew, he starts picking up on the inconsistencies pretty fast.
He's sharp.
Very sharp. He decides to test the waters, and he drops a name. He casually mentions that Raj, the assistant chief, is going to be furious if they don't get the lookout back safely.
Took a great trap.
It really is. The imposter takes the bait and replies, "Yeah, Roger's got a real temper." Boom. The narrator knows for a fact the chief's name is Rajesh. He goes by Raj, not Roger.
Right.
The man is clearly an imposter.
And it's a brilliant, subtle interrogation tactic by the rescuer.
Oh, absolutely.
Once he confirms the deception, he doesn't confront the man directly.
Right, because that could escalate into a fight.
Exactly. Which could get violent.
Yeah.
Instead, he plays along.
Yeah, he fakes dropping a piece of gear near the base of the tower, pretending he needs to go back for it.
Smart.
And he explicitly tells the imposter, "Don't worry, I'm not going in the tower." So the imposter relaxes his guard.
He thinks he got away with it.
Yep. But the second the narrator hits the first step of the stairs, the whole facade drops. The imposter completely abandons his bluff and just sprints for the tree line.
He knows it's over.
Right? Leaving the crew to discover the horrifying reality of what he was trying to hide.
Yeah, and this part is just awful. Inside that tiny elevated cabin, shoved underneath the bed, they find the actual fire lookout. A woman named Jean. She was completely naked, severely beaten, and gagged. She had been held hostage at knife point for days.
It's just terrifying to think about.
It is. And the physical toll was immense. She had cracked ribs, broken teeth, internal bleeding, and a level of dehydration that put her on the absolute brink of death.
And if you think about it, carrying her out in a ground vehicle over that rough, mountainous terrain, it might have actually killed her due to the internal injuries.
Very likely, yes.
She desperately needed that helicopter. It really forces you to realize the sheer irony of the situation.
Yeah.
That devastating dry lightning storm, the very thing threatening to incinerate the whole forest, is exactly what saved Jean's life.
It forced the radio blackout.
Which forced the physical evacuation.
Right, and it also exposes the darkest layer of the imposter's plan.
How so?
Well, when he casually told the rescue crew there was nothing important up in the tower to save.
Yeah.
He was talking about a living human being.
Oh, man.
He fully intended to let the approaching wildfires sweep over that tower and burn Jean alive.
To cover his tracks.
Exactly. The fire would completely consume the crime scene, erasing all forensic evidence and masking a brutal murder as a tragic workplace accident.
That is just chilling. Jean was completely cornered by circumstance. She was simply doing her job when a predator happened to cross her path.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. But there is an entirely different psychological layer to explore here. What happens when someone deliberately seeks out that extreme solitude?
Right.
Like, what happens when isolation is the exact thing you are utilizing to heal from trauma, only to realize the wilderness is a blank canvas for a new kind of threat?
And that brings us to a starkly different scenario from our sources. This takes place later, in 1994, in Montana's Lolo National Forest.
A very remote area.
Very. The subject here is a 27-year-old woman who has just fled a violently abusive relationship back in Seattle.
So she's already dealing with so much.
Yes. She feels terrified, stripped of her autonomy, and she desperately needs to reclaim a sense of control over her own life. So she takes an $8 an hour job to staff a staggeringly remote fire lookout.
And when we say remote, we mean the only access points are by helicopter or a grueling hike with pack mules.
Point out there.
The Forest Service had actually seen 3 separate applicants cancel on them before she applied because the sheer weight of the isolation was just too daunting.
Most people can't handle it.
Right. But for this woman, that geographic fortress is exactly the medicine she needs. She loves it.
Until she doesn't.
Right. Until about 2 weeks into her post, she steps out of her ground-level cabin and finds a dead rabbit placed right outside her door.
Now, in an environment heavily populated by black bears, grizzlies, wolves, and mountain lions, a dead rabbit on a doorstep isn't inherently sinister.
Right. It could just be an animal thing.
Exactly. A predator easily could have dropped its kill upon detecting the scent of a human. And a visiting ranger, who we refer to as Hank to protect his identity, suggests exactly that.
He thinks it's just nature.
Yeah, he says it's just the reality of the food chain operating around her.
But the pattern continues. 10 days later, another dead rabbit appears.
It's becoming systematic.
Yeah. Eventually, she finds 4 dead rabbits, one placed for each week she's been stationed there.
Too regular to be random.
Exactly. So Hank flies up on a routine resupply run to investigate the area, and the illusion of a natural explanation completely shatters.
Yeah, this is where it turns.
In the dirt near the cabin, Hank finds a footprint. But it's not a heavy hiking boot.
No.
It's a bare human footprint.
And from a psychological profiling standpoint, this is a textbook escalation of territorial behavior.
Leaving the animal.
Leaving the animals is a display of capability. It proves the stalker can hunt, kill, and move undetected right up to her threshold.
It's a flex.
Yeah, but doing it barefoot is a very specific, deliberate assertion of primal dominance.
Oh, interesting.
The stalker is communicating that he is perfectly adapted to this hostile environment without modern gear. He is stripping away conventional protections to show her that he owns those woods. And that contrasts sharply with her reliance on cabin walls and radios.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But then the escalation reaches a point of distinctly gendered terror.
Yeah, this part is awful.
One morning, instead of a rabbit, she opens her door to find a wet, fresh pile of organ meat.
Just left right there.
Right. Hank and another ranger who actually has veterinary training come up to analyze it. They determine it's a pile of organs from a deer or maybe a moose calf. But specifically, it is a womb and 2 ovaries.
Yeah.
Removing the reproductive organs of an animal and leaving them at the doorstep of a lone woman, that moves us entirely away from just trespassing.
Completely.
It is designed to inflict maximum psychological terror, targeting her specifically as a woman.
It is a deeply misogynistic threat. It's a promise of violence.
Yeah.
At this point, the situation is critically dangerous, and Hank rightly offers to let her leave on the helicopter right then and there. Evacuation is the standard logical protocol.
But here's where it gets really interesting, but also kind of baffling. She knows she's being hunted by a barefoot psycho, leaving reproductive organs at her door.
Right.
Why not just get on the helicopter and leave? She refuses. She decides to stay.
And honestly, from a psychological standpoint, this makes complete sense.
Really? Explain that.
Well, she had just spent 6 years running from abusive men who controlled her through fear.
Right, her whole life in Seattle.
Exactly. Boarding that helicopter would mean confirming that she has to keep running forever, that she will never actually be safe.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about it like that.
She explicitly states in the source that she felt more anger than fear in that moment. She draws a hard line in the sand.
So it's about not letting them win again.
It is a profound reclamation of her agency. She is making a calculated decision that her psychological survival, her autonomy, is worth risking physical confrontation.
Because giving up would destroy her.
If she allows another man to terrorize her into fleeing, the internal damage might be permanent. She refuses to be the victim again.
That is incredibly brave. And recognizing her resolve, Hank makes a crucial tactical decision.
A risky one, too.
Very. He breaks Forest Service protocol, risking his own career, and sneaks her a .22 caliber rifle from the armory. He logs it under the guise of aggressive bear sightings.
Which is technically true, just a different kind of predator.
Right. Armed with a rifle, she makes a strategic shift. She abandons the vulnerable ground-level cabin and drags her mattress all the way up into the glass watchtower.
She trades concealment for a fortified position.
Because the cabin was too easy to sneak up on.
Exactly. Now, the glass tower gets incredibly hot during the day, and it leaves her visually exposed, like a fish in a bowl.
Right, anyone in the woods can see her up there.
Yes, but it possesses massive tactical advantages. It sits atop a metal staircase, and the base features a chain-link fence secured by a heavy lock.
So you can't just quietly open the door.
Exactly. It is structurally impossible to approach that tower silently.
And that architectural advantage is exactly what saves her. In the dead of night, she hears this metallic keening sound.
The fence.
Yep. It's the distinct snap of someone physically ripping open the chain link fence at the bottom.
Terrifying.
Then comes the heavy, vibrating thud of bare feet rapidly ascending the metal stairs.
He's rushing her.
She forces herself up, steps out onto the exterior catwalk, loudly cocks the .22 rifle, and screams down into the dark that anyone who comes up those stairs is getting shot.
She takes control.
She delivers a loud, aggressive verbal warning. And the response she gets from the dark? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
Dead silence, no retreating footsteps, no talking, no heavy breathing.
And the narrator notes this was the absolute peak of her terror.
Because she doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. She realizes she is dealing with someone who not only won't speak, but perhaps physically can't.
Or just refuses to.
Exactly. By remaining completely silent, the stalker is weaponizing the dark.
Wow. Weaponizing the dark.
He deprives her of any sensory information regarding his exact position or his intentions. It's an attempt to force her to panic and make a fatal mistake.
It's the ultimate terror of the unknown. So she decides to let the rifle communicate for her.
Good call.
She aims up and fires a deafening warning shot directly into the night sky.
That'll do it.
Yeah, the gunshot echoes through the whole valley, and finally, she hears the heavy, barefoot steps rapidly retreat down the metal stairs and fade into the dirt.
You got the message.
He did. The stalker never returns. She survived because she fortified her position and proved she wasn't easy prey.
Predators in the wild, whether they are animal or human, they are fundamentally opportunistic.
They want an easy meal.
Exactly. They look for the path of least resistance. When this predator realized his target had teeth, he recalculated the risk and retreated into the woods.
But that raises a deeply unsettling question for me. I mean, she had a locking tower and she had a gun.
Yeah, she was equipped.
What happens to the people in the wilderness who don't have a fortress to retreat to? What if you are simply caught out on a trail?
It's a completely different story.
Right. And our final source explores a situation where the isolation isn't just geographical, it becomes institutional.
Yes. This brings us to the Cascade Mountains in 2011. Our narrator for this one is a seasoned 15-year veteran of the Forest Service.
So she knows what she's doing.
Highly observant professional who spends her life in the deep woods. And in mid-July, while exploring a heavily overgrown, abandoned trail just a few miles from her lookout, she stumbles upon a shallow, 20-foot depression in the earth.
Just off the trail.
Yes. Inside this depression, she finds scattered bones, with roots actively growing through the ribcage.
And the specific forensic markers she observes, they immediately rule out an animal carcass.
Right away.
She notices a skull with a prominent suture line across the top. Now, for anyone not deep into anatomy, a suture line is that highly distinct, squiggly joint where the separate plates of a human skull fuse together as we develop.
Right, animals have different skull structures.
Exactly. She also notes a smooth, high forehead, forward-facing eye sockets, and intact human teeth. Incisors, canines, and premolars.
And she explicitly notes the lack of a prominent snout and the presence of mastoid processes.
What are those exactly?
The mastoid process is the bony protrusion located just behind the human ear where our heavy neck muscles attach.
Okay, got it.
Bears do not possess them. A bear's skull slopes back aggressively to support massive jaw muscles, not an upright posture.
Right.
Any seasoned forest worker who has spent over a decade looking at poached bears, dead elk, and deer knows exactly how to differentiate between a weathered animal skull and a human one.
So what does this all mean, though? I mean, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Is it possible she just watched too many true crime shows? Like, could a weathered bear skeleton actually fool a seasoned forest worker if it was degraded enough?
Well, the source specifics refute that completely.
Yeah.
She explicitly states that over 15 years, she had seen plenty of animal carcasses. She knew the difference. Bears do not have human chins.
True.
And beyond the skull, she finds a wide, bowl-shaped pelvis. The broader, flatter iliac crests strongly indicate a female skeleton, as that structure facilitates childbirth.
Okay, so that's pretty definitive.
Yes, But the most alarming detail is a femur that has been cleanly snapped in half by severe blunt force.
And the femur is the longest, thickest, and strongest bone in the human body.
It takes a lot to break it.
Oh, absolutely. To cleanly snap a healthy femur requires immense localized kinetic energy.
Like a car crash.
Exactly. We are talking about the type of trauma sustained in a high-speed car crash, a massive fall from a great height, or a deliberate, brutal strike with a heavy weapon. It does not occur from simply tripping over a route on a hiking trail.
No, it doesn't.
So she marks the exact GPS coordinates, hikes back to her tower, and officially calls it in.
Doing everything right.
Everything by the book. The state police and rangers hike out, bag the skeletal remains, and close off the area. You would naturally assume the system is functioning properly here.
You'd hope so.
Right. A tragic discovery was made, and now a forensic investigation will begin to identify this woman and figure out how her femur was shattered.
But that's not what happens.
No. Instead, a few weeks later, a ranger flies up to her cabin and drops a bureaucratic bombshell. He informs her that the state police lab analyzed the remains, officially ruled them animal bones, likely a bear or a mountain lion, and internally closed the case.
The narrator is just utterly stunned.
As anyone would be.
She reiterates the undeniable anatomical facts. The human teeth, the bowl-shaped pelvis, the cranial suture lines.
What does the ranger say to that?
He simply shrugs, avoids eye contact, and offers a weak explanation that bones get warped by the elements over time.
Warped into a human shape. Come on.
Right. But the true administrative gut punch comes next.
Yeah, this part makes my blood boil.
Because the state police classified them as animal bones, the remains were promptly destroyed. They were incinerated.
Which is standard operating procedure for disposing of diseased animal carcasses, sure.
Right.
But it is an absolute catastrophe if those remains belong to a human being.
It's permanent destruction of evidence.
It feels like a deliberate plunge into a jurisdictional black hole. You have federal forest land overlapping with state police authority, and perhaps local county sheriffs.
And no one wants the case.
Exactly. No single agency wants to fund, manage, or take responsibility for a notoriously difficult, expensive wilderness homicide investigation with zero leads and a severely degraded crime scene. It is a massive administrative headache.
So the bureaucracy defaults to the path of least resistance.
Typical.
By officially classifying the skeleton as an animal and legally incinerating it, they permanently erase the administrative burden.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yes. The physical evidence that could contradict their scientifically absurd ruling is literally turned to ash.
So no one can double-check their work.
Exactly. No independent university anthropologist can ever examine those bones to prove the police wrong.
The narrator refuses to accept this cover-up, though. She begins a relentless campaign of letter writing.
She really fought for this person.
She did. She contacts the state police, state representatives, state senators, and the governor's office. She files public record requests trying to shake loose any documentation.
And what does she get?
She gets completely, systematically stonewalled by every single office.
Of course.
One political staffer actually shows a brief glimmer of interest right up until they discover the state police already closed the file. Then the excuse abruptly pivots to a lack of resources for wilderness cases.
It's a polite bureaucratic method of saying, this is not our problem and we do not care.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is where we witness the most terrifying form of isolation. The lookout's isolation wasn't just physical anymore. It became entirely institutional.
She was alone against the system.
Yes. The system demanded that she ignore the undeniable evidence of her own eyes. She became a lone, rational voice screaming into a bureaucratic void.
That has to be maddening.
The true horror isn't simply that a woman was violently murdered in the deep woods. It's that the very institutions designed to seek justice actively colluded to erase her existence because it was inconvenient.
The narrator eventually reaches retirement, but the psychological weight of that discovery never leaves her. She continues to write letters to this day, haunted by the memory of the roots growing through those ribs and the empty eye sockets of a victim that society simply threw away.
The wilderness provided the cover for the crime, but human bureaucracy is what ultimately buried it.
That's a powerful way to put it.
It highlights a critical failure of the systems we trust to maintain order when the physical boundaries of society end.
Which brings us back to how you, the listener, interact with the great outdoors.
Yeah, how we all do, really.
We constantly view the deep wilderness as an escape hatch. We crave a place to unplug from the chaotic grind, the emails, the traffic, and the density of human society.
It's natural to want that.
But these accounts serve as a harsh, vital reminder that society is a package deal.
Very true.
When you hike miles past the trailhead to strip away the chaos, you are simultaneously stripping away the protections. You lose the emergency response times, the accountability, and the watchful eyes of your community.
Total isolation is the ultimate double-edged sword.
Yeah, it really is.
It can offer unparalleled peace and a space for profound healing, as it initially did for the woman fleeing her abuser.
Right?
But it simultaneously leaves you entirely at the mercy of whatever or whoever happens to find you out there. Without the structure of civilization, the rules of engagement revert to pure primal opportunism.
From the imposter desperately trying to use a wildfire to burn Jean alive in her tower,
Yeah.
to the barefoot stalker testing the psychological boundaries of a lone woman in the dark, to the shattered femur and destroyed evidence in the Cascades.
All connected by that isolation.
Right. The underlying threat in all these stories was never the forest itself. The trees and the weather are indifferent.
They don't care about you.
Exactly. The true threat was what the vastness of the forest allowed people to get away with.
We are heavily conditioned to fear the woods because of the apex predators that live there.
Bears, wolves, that kind of thing.
Right. We buy bear spray and hang our food because we worry about grizzlies or mountain lions. But perhaps the most terrifying reality of the deep wilderness isn't the wildlife.
No.
It's the fact that absolute isolation provides the perfect, consequence-free, blank canvas for human predators.
Which is a terrifying thought to leave on.
It is. The next time you are tracing a route on a topographical map, craving that ultimate disconnected retreat, ask yourself who else might be out there, searching for a place where the rules of society no longer apply.